Wow, so this is it. The view from up here is amazing. Professor Peterson, the rest of your team, thank you all for having me. The graduates, the stars of the day. This is a day that I hope many of you will cherish beyond what lies ahead today and in the years to come. The parents, some of you here, it's taken blood, sweat, tears, and prayer to get us here. Thank you. I must admit that when I was invited to speak here, the first thing I said when I got the email was I thought, the University of the Free State has low standards if they want me to speak. I mean, who invites a random 27-year-old to address a graduation ceremony? But then I remembered my journey. I used to sit in this very venue, like a lot of you, for exams. You might have heard I was here, it was 2011 to 2012 when I studied here, but we'll get to that. But first, before we get there, I want to give you just some background on who I am. My name is Thembekile Mrototo, TV and radio broadcaster, a journalist with 947, a music radio station based in Johannesburg. I am also an anchor with the biggest news channel in this country, ENCA. Come on now, you need to clap for that. Get yourself together. But my story did not begin with Prime Media or 947 or ENCA. My story began in Bloemfontein in 1992. That's when I was born here. I then went on from grade 0 to matric. I was at Castlebridge, like those lovely people over there to my left. That's where I matriculated. And then I came here 2011. But as I was saying to the parents, that it's taken blood, sweat, tears, and prayer to get here. The same applies in my story. My father passed when I was 13 years old. This was 2005. And from there, that's when my story really took a bit of a tougher turn, because from there, many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the story, financial difficulty, being raised by a single mother with very little. I mean, I lived in a 2-roomed house until I was 14 years old. So the dream that I'm living now, this life that I call mine, for a while seemed impossible. It seemed like a faraway dream. But here we are today, 2019, and I can stand before you and say, everything I've ever wanted and continue to yearn for has become true. But when I was here in my schooling, there were those challenges that came up, and I'm sure many of you have experienced them as well. I remember a time when I registered to come and study at this university. I had no funding. I didn't know where the money was going to come from. My mother was a domestic worker, so we couldn't afford what was the 20,000 Rand fee at that time. So we took a chance. I registered, I started studying. Not once did I ever pay my fees, which then led to my financial exclusion in 2012. I remember the day I got that SMS from the university prof. I was leaving. It was after we'd just written the March test, I think it was, the test series. And I got the message to say, you have been financially excluded due to non-payment and all of that. And for a child who had always known that with my background, when you come from the sort of poverty that I come from, education was the only way to get out. And I've never felt that close to falling back into the cycle as I did on that day. I remember just walking home, taking this message home and showing it to my mother and saying, the message we've been waiting for has arrived. I can no longer continue my studies. But because I knew that I had a dream, I wanted to be on your TV and radio stations. That's what I wanted to do. So I continued with Motheo FM, the community radio station. How many of you here are familiar with Motheo FM? Oh, you don't have to be so polite. Let's see. Yes, it's a community radio station based in Bloemfontein. That's where I started. That's where I cut my teeth as a broadcaster, as a newsreader. I continued with that because I was pursuing a dream that for a while seemed as though I was not going to be able to attain. And after that setback with the University of the Free State, I told myself that this was not going to be the end. What did I do? Another leap of faith. I applied for a spot to study at the University of Johannesburg. This was now end of 2013. Again, by the way, your brother still doesn't have money, hey? I still don't know how I'm paying for this degree, but we're going. So I apply, they accept me, I go in. Again, like many people who've left home, I leave Bloemfontein with a suitcase and a backpack and just hopes and dreams, like many other people. Like many of you who I know came to Bloemfontein under the same circumstances. So off I go to Johannesburg. A friend of mine who I'd met through radio, some of you may know her, Leila Nyani, she is one of the radio voices in this part of the country, gave me 1,500 rand just so I could get through that first month. Went to the University of Johannesburg, but at the back of my mind I still knew that I could not afford to be here, so a plan had to be made. And coming from a family of people who'd always worked hard for what they have, I knew that I had to make a plan. So one day, like many of you, I was wasting time in the laboratory, the computer labs. So I'm sitting there Googling all manner of things. And as life would have it, I ended up on the EWN Eyewitness News website. They are the news division for Radio 702 as well as 947. And at the bottom they said, for comments, questions, or queries, email editor@ewn.co.za. Oh well, I mean, I don't have a comment, but here goes nothing. Hi, my name is Thembekile, this is my sad story, blah, blah, blah. Do you have internships in your newsroom? This is me now, I haven't even graduated. I want to know about internships. I mean, take a leap of faith, there we go. Send this thing through. Thankfully, I'd always kept recordings of some of the shows I'd done at Mutare FM, were on email as well as CV. Send these out. An email comes back from a lady by the name of Camilla Barth, who went on to become one of my managers. This email says, we don't have internships at the moment, unfortunately, but what we do have is a spot for freelance overnight newsreaders on 702, the biggest talk radio station in this country. And she asked at the end, would you be keen? I'm like, is she okay? Girl, I wanted an internship. Now you are saying you're going to put me on the radio every weekend. Of course, in my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to be rich. I'll tell you later. It turned out I wasn't quite rich. But off we go. I say, of course, I'd love to do this overnight freelance thing. I don't know how it's going to tie in with my studies, but let's go. So an email comes back a week later. They say, can you come in for an interview? Our big boss, Katie Katapodis, the woman who basically created the monster that is EWN Eyewitness News, would like to speak with you. I go in for my interview. By the way, I've never been to Sandton, hey? I live there with the students in our poverty in West Dean. I'm roughing it there. The night before the interview, I'm asking people who are familiar with Johannesburg, send me a picture of this building. I'm going to 702. What does it look like? And if, like me, you've watched Jerusalem and Tsotsi, you know Johannesburg is a frightening place. So I'm thinking they're going to steal me or my organs while I walk around the CBD. But anyway, I don't tell my mother, I don't tell anyone, because I don't want to create expectation. I don't have the job yet. You know what I'm saying? I don't like disappointment. So off we go now. I've got this picture, guys, on my phone. Hey, this is 702, man. I keep looking. Oh, this is the building. There's a lead SA thing. Off we go. We're walking. I'm in my Sunday best now. If you know anything about having been poor, I'm wearing my faded little chinos. I remember they were gray. I had my green shirt. But these are my best clothes, Baba. I was going to make an impression at this interview. How I arrive at this office. It's in Sandton. They offer me tea, there's coffee, there's biscuits. I haven't seen a biscuit in weeks. So of course I'll have one. So off I go into the interview. I'm my usual shy self. You can tell I'm shy, right? I'm sure you can all tell. Sit there, of course. My sparkling personality carries me through. They send me off home. A week later, an email arrives in my inbox. These rude Johannesburg people. No one calls you to let you know you've got the job. So the email says, and I hope you do this with your staff as well, Prof. Welcome to EWN. When would you like to start? I'm like, geez, lady, how about some congratulations? Be nice, how have I been doing? What did I have for supper last week? None of that. When would you like to start? Well, I'm broke. I'd like to start now, if you don't mind. So yeah, now I call my mother, very excited. My mother, who's always supported this broadcasting thing, even though for a while she didn't know what on earth it was about, is excited. She's never heard of 702. It's a Joburg-based radio station. She's like, hi, he works at 702. Every time people ask, he works for 702. It's a radio station. He reads the news. So off I go. But now, when I start working at 702, it isn't the land of milk and honey that I thought it would be. Because when I did the overnight shift, you'd come in at 7 p.m. and you'd read news every hour until 5 the next morning. 3 days in a row. You're the only person in the building. Now, I don't know if this building was built on top of a cemetery, but I did hear noises in the middle of the night. I don't mean to start a rumor, but yes. But also the money is not what I thought it would be, because now, no one told me this, but I'm splitting this overnight shift with 2 other people. So some months I do 1 weekend, some months 2, but you know when they say you are favored, the one girl got fired, the other resigned. I won't tell you about the circumstances. We shan't talk about that. It's not my part of the story. But with all of that, I think the lesson from there is I started doing overnights. And then from doing overnights, a random Saturday, it was the week of the ANC's manifesto launch, January 8th celebration, one of the daytime people was ill on that Saturday. And they said to me, this little boy from Bloemfontein, 23 years old at the time, can you come and do this thing on a Saturday? What did I do? As I had done with every other call I'd received, I made myself available. I availed myself to serve, to learn. I went in, I did this shift. On the Tuesday, I got a call from Katie Ketapotis saying, we heard you on the weekend, you sounded amazing. I knew this. How's about these weekends become your slot? Weekend afternoon. You mean I no longer have to sleep at work? Okay, let's go. Now, this weekend afternoon gig also comes with work during the week, so I had to do like reporting 3 days a week. I don't like reporting because you end up in some dusty place and there's a protest and you're hungry and there's no toilet, but I had to stick with it. So I did that for a bit, and with hard work, the next thing came. The next thing was another resignation. I love it when people resign because it usually means I get to move up. So a friend of mine, Nom Samdluli, who used to do the evenings on 702, now resigns. This now means I get to come off weekends and move on to evenings during the week. Now the money starts to look pretty, because I had still been poor for the first 2 years. And I continued to work on it. Eventually I moved on, got my way onto 947, which is where I am now, the music radio station. Just by a show of hands, how many of you are familiar with Thembekile Mrototo, the TV presenter? She is one of the people I am grateful to, because when I first stood in on her show, I was so nervous. I mean, this was the first celebrity I'd really met in this building. And her newsreader also resigned again, a third resignation that paved the way for me. Again, we love resignations. And Annele now says the station has this idea that they're going to bring someone else to read on her show, to do the news. She says, no, find me that talkative boy from Bloemfontein. Where's he? He must come and read here. I'm like, oh, wow. I mean, I am free Tuesdays. So in I go, I do this thing, I do this. I read, and eventually, when Annele got breakfast, which is where we are now, 947 Breakfast Club, 6 to 9 in the morning on 947, do listen. I see you, Maverick. Maverick is my neighbor. We live in the same complex back in Johannesburg, recruit everyone to listen. I eventually end up doing the show. I'm not sure how much time I have, but through all of that, I then I get this crazy idea that now I want to be on TV. What do? I mail Sally Burdett. She's the head of anchors at ENCA. I say, hello, Sissy, again, inexperienced like I did with the radio people, but I'd really like to do this TV news reading thing. Sally says, do you have any TV experience? No, I don't. So what do? I get 2 of my friends at the time, Dineo and Vumani. We were all worked together at Eyewitness News. There's a studio at the radio station. They come in. Dineo is going to hold up now boards, stories on a board. Vumani is there with his camera. And I'm pretending that this is a TV broadcast. So I'm reading this now because I need to get this TV job. Again, I get the call. Sally says, come in, come do this thing on weekends. And we start doing it. And as all of this is going on, and not without being too long, I think the lessons from all of that to where I am today is that you are responsible for your dreams and aspirations. And that responsibility comes with a lot of work. There are going to be disappointments. You are going to be financially excluded. You're going to be broke some days. But if you believe in what it is that you want to achieve from this day forward, and you put your mind to it, and you take every opportunity that comes your way, no matter how big or small. Some of them are small, but they are leading to something bigger. When I started overnights, I never imagined that I would now be the breakfast show anchor who also does television work, having been on broadcasts like the funeral of the late Winnie Madikizela Mandela. I've anchored some amazing things, interviewed some of the most famous people in this country, the most powerful politicians have all sat across from me. All of this at the age of 27. And I say that to you to say, and I know a lot of you are from the Free State, Bloemfontein. People look at this part of the world and they think nothing big comes from there. And you have the power to change it. It is all in you. And while we chase these dreams and everything else that we want to get to, I want to encourage you to be kind to one another. Take care of each other. It's hard. A lot of us are battling. A lot of the people next to you are depressed. People come to campus hungry. But if we can all feed off each other, we can do a hell of a lot. The future is ours. There is an entire world out there that's us, that is ours for the taking. And if we don't do it now, no one is coming to save us. None of these amazing professionals can do it for us. They've taken us to this point, but from here onwards, it is up to us. And I can only hope that by being here today, I've encouraged one or two of you to go out there and be fearless and chase your dreams, even if it means spending a few nights on an empty stomach, even if it means begging, harassing people on email. Keep doing it. It is all in you. And again, I am incredibly honored to have been given the opportunity to stand here before you today as you begin this brilliant new chapter in your lives, because great things are going to come from this room. It may not look like it now, but it is coming. Thank you.